So in this video, we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to be doing some practice problems from class, but instead we're going to be looking at the practice problems that are at the end of Module 52 in the Krugman textbook. So in this book, there's a couple of Check Your Understanding questions, and in Check Your Understanding question 1, it says that Karma and Don run a furniture business from their home, and which represent an implicit and which represent an explicit cost, and then it gives you 5 different little pieces of their costs. So A says supplies such as their paint stripper, varnish, polish, sandpaper, and so forth. That would be their explicit costs. And that's because these involve an outlay of money. They exit their wallet. For B, it says the basement space that they already had that was converted into a workroom. So this is not something that they spent money on. It's already there, and in fact, they're giving up, they're foregoing the benefit of using it in another way. So this is an implicit cost. For C, it says wages paid to a part-time helper. That's clearly explicit because they are exiting their wallets, right? D, van that they inherited and only use for transporting furniture. This, again, is something that they're foregoing the benefit from. They're not spending money on it, so we would say that it's an implicit cost. For E, the job at a larger furniture store that one of the two Karma gave up in order to run the business. That's, again, this is a foregone benefit, so it's foregone wages, and so we'd say it's an implicit cost of running their business. So number 2 gives you a different scenario and says you're in a business earning an accounting profit of $2,000. So accounting profit of $25,000, excuse me. And we know that accounting profit is equal to total revenue minus explicit costs minus depreciation, right? Depreciation. And so they tell us it's 25,000. We also know that economic profit would be all of that minus implicit costs. And it says, what's your economic profit if your implicit cost of capital is 2,000 and the opportunity cost of your time is 23,000, and explain your answer. So we subtract the 2,000, that's the implicit cost of your capital, right? Implicit cost of your capital with a K. And we have to subtract the 23,000 because that's your implicit cost of your labor. And so we're left with 0 or normal economic profit. And so that's part A. Part B says, what does this tell you about the advisability of doing this? And that is to say, this activity generates just enough profit to justify continuing. Because if it generated any less profit, it would not be a good idea to continue in this business, but instead it's just enough to justify continuing to do so. So there are 5 multiple choice questions, and in the multiple choice questions, we're going to kind of go through these relatively quickly. It says, which of the following is an example of an implicit cost? An implicit cost is not A, B, or C. Those are all explicit costs. The value of the time you spent eating lunch, or D, is actually the only implicit cost in the list. 2 says, which of the following is an implicit cost of attending college? So again, A, B, C, and D are all actually explicit costs. So the only one that's an implied cost or implicit cost is your foregone salary, E. 3 is, which of the following is the best definition of accounting profit? And that is, accounting profit is total revenue minus depreciation and total explicit costs only. That's A. Number 4 says, which of the following is considered when calculating economic profit but not accounting profit? So economic profit is inclusive of implicit costs, but accounting profit does not include that, so the correct answer is A. And number 5, you sell t-shirts at your school's football games. Each shirt costs 5 to make, sells for 10. The game lasts 2 hours, and you sell 200 shirts a game. You could always be earning 8 per hour at your other job, which is correct. And then it says your accounting profit is blank, and your economic profit is blank. So if you sell 100 shirts times the price, which is 10, that gives you the total revenue. So that's 1,000. And your explicit costs are 100 shirts times 5 to make. So that's your explicit costs, right? Your explicit costs are 500. So your accounting profit is equal to positive 500. And then you know that if your accounting profit's 500, you subtract your implicit costs, and your implicit costs are the 2 hours that you could have spent earning $8 an hour, so that's 16. So your economic profit is 484. So the correct answer there is C. C. Okay. So now we're going to take a look at the second free response question, FRQ number 2. And FRQ number 2 on the next page talks about Sunny and how she owns a snow cone stand. And then it says in January, here's some data about that. And it gives you the price, the quantity, the explicit cost, depreciation, and implicit cost of capital. And for A, it says calculate Sunny's total revenue. So that's the price times the quantity. So that's $2 times 2,000 equals 4,000. And part B says calculate her accounting profit for January. So that's that 4,000. And then we're going to subtract out the explicit cost and the depreciation. So 4,000 minus 400 minus 100 equals 3,500. And C says, what additional information do we need to determine whether or not to continue an operation? So it gives us the implicit cost of capital, but we don't have the implicit cost of Sunny's time, the implicit cost of her labor or her time. So we don't know what she would have been doing otherwise. And D says, suppose these numbers remain unchanged, explain how Sunny will determine whether or not to continue operating in the long run on the basis of these numbers. So she will continue if, and here's where the kicker is, right? We know that the implicit cost of her capital is given actually in the problem is 200. So her 3,300 would be the remaining amount of kind of the possibility before she ends up with negative economic profit. So she will continue if her implicit cost of labor is equal to or less than, I guess I could have written just the less than or equal to sign, is equal to or less than 3,300. Which is to say, as long as, as long as her economic profit is 0 or positive. So she'll continue to do this as long as her implicit cost of labor is equal to or less than 3,300, or as long as her economic profit is 0 or positive. And those are kind of saying the same thing here. So hopefully this helps you understand some of the questions related to Module 52.